The U.S. State Department considers its decision to grant Ukraine permission to carry out strikes with American weapons on Russian territory to be adequate. This was stated by U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller.
Russia is the aggressor, and Russia is deploying its troops on the border to attack civilian targets. Therefore, the United States will continue to take appropriate countermeasures so that Ukraine can defend itself. I would say that Vladimir Putin has continually escalated this war over and over again, including these latest actions, and we believe this is an adequate response. Matthew Miller, spokesperson for the United States Department of State, Voice of America reports.
Speaker Mike Johnson believes that the current partial permissions for Ukraine to use U.S. weapons are not enough. According to him, Washington must stop micromanaging military efforts in Ukraine, and Johnson himself plans to raise this issue in a conversation with the White House administration.
It is quite possible that there will be an expansion of these permissions, this campaign, in particular regarding the use of ATACMS missiles. I don't have any insights on this matter. I just think that if it is already started, it will continue, as they say. If for a penny, in for a pound.
Since the beginning of the war, Ukraine has been able to shoot down Russian planes that pose a threat to it. The U.S. has never placed restrictions on this, so White House National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby said.
I just want to point out that there was confusion about this. There have never been restrictions on Ukrainians shooting down enemy aircraft, even if those aircraft were not necessarily in Ukrainian airspace. John Kirby, White House National Security Communications Advisor, Voice of America reports.
United States President Joe Biden said in an interview with ABC News that Ukraine would not use American weapons to strike Moscow or the Kremlin. He also commented on Putin's statements that allegedly strikes by Western weapons on Russian territory are direct participation in the war.
I've known him for over 40 years. He's concerned me for 40 years. He's not a decent man, he's a dictator, and he's struggling to make sure he holds this country together while still keeping this assault going. We're not talking about giving them weapons to strike Moscow, to strike the Kremlin, to strike just across the border where they're receiving significant fire from conventional weapons used by the Russians to go into Ukraine to kill Ukrainians.
And Kharkiv attacks from S-300 ballistic missiles have not been recorded recently. Local authorities attribute this to the fact that Ukraine was allowed to launch strikes on Russian territory with Western weapons. But Russian troops continue to attack, including with guided glide bombs. In addition, while Western partners hesitated, the Russians destroyed all energy generation in the region, experts say.
They will help knock out the Russian troops before they even cross the border, before they enter the battle, and thus will make the job easier for our guys, our Ukrainian defense forces. Plus, the accumulation of troops is knocked out, since it was unattainable before, since we could not use these systems, plus logistics and warehouses are knocked out.
The Associated Press reports citing an unnamed Western official that Ukraine has already used American weapons to strike Russian territory after receiving permission to do so from the United States. Let us remind you that 15 countries have already allowed Ukraine to use their weapons on the territory of the aggressor country, the Armed Forces of Ukraine report. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Yulia Bil, UATV News.